heart beats just a little faster right now, doesn't it? As they stand alone right now. No cornermen. They're just ready to make the ring walk for the biggest fight that boxing can make.
What it do from every block to every coast? It's your boy Shadow Ghost, and here I am going through some boxing news like I always do, man. Just scrolling through, waiting for the fights, man, to come on up. You know what I mean? So I'm going through, and I'm over here at Boxing Scene, right? So Plant, yo, here goes. We all know that Caleb Plant and David Benavidez has a rivalry, man. I mean, it's like Tiafimo and Devin Haney, man. It goes back, man. They have history, right? And every time Caleb Plant fights, it never goes without Benavidez having to take a jab at him. And every time Benavidez fights, it never goes without Caleb Plant having to throw a jab at him. So Caleb Plant obviously had this to say about Benavidez. He says, Benavidez is fighting my sparring partner. Really, all I have to say about that fight, I mean... Yeah, there he is, just shitting on him like he always does. Always tries to. But you know what? I mean, we were talking about a guy who couldn't take care of Caleb Truax, and even after not being able to knock him out, then he's complaining that he has hand problems, and then he's saying that he's gonna fight Canelo Alvarez at the end of this year. I think he has other problems to worry about. Also, Canelo Alvarez. Speaking of Canelo Alvarez, he was also brought up in a conversation when Fight Hub TV was interviewing David Benavidez, and they mentioned Charlo and Canelo, and I have a snippet from that. Here it goes right here.
Man, great to see you back. David, I just want to ask you a quick question. I was taken back by some things that Canelo and both Charlo said. I just want to give you a chance to respond to those questions. You had Charlo saying that for him to fight, for you to fight him, you had to get vaccinated. And then Canelo said he didn't feel comfortable right now fighting other Mexican fighters. So I just wanted to ask your response to those comments made by both Charlo and Canelo.
I can't really say too much about what they have to say. What I have to do is just stay ready and be ready for anybody. If I'm willing to fight anybody and they're not, they're putting restrictions on people that they don't want to fight, man, if I'm not the best super middleweight, I'm the number one contender in super middleweight right now. So the people, they're going to start demanding for these fights and to start calling for these fights. So if I'm ready to fight these dudes and I'm 24 years old and these dudes are 29, 30 years old, what does that say about them?
I mean, and there it is. Let's just call it for what it is. David Benavidez got the gas pedal down on Canelo and Charlo. I mean, he's not saying he doesn't want to fight another Mexican fighter. He's not saying that he doesn't want to fight anybody that's not vaccinated or under 24. He just wants to fight. When it comes to Canelo, he does show a form and a level of respect. But when it comes to Charlo, man, he's saying, bro, you called my name out. Now I ain't going to stop calling your name out. I mean, look, it's almost like as if he's saying, well, you should have never opened up your mouth. I mean, look, that wasn't the only part of the interview. Here goes another clip.
Focused on your fight with Ellis just now, but just following up on what one of the other guys asked, is there a possibility of a showdown with you and Charlo if he can come up to 168 possibly this year?
Yeah, so that's the fight that I want to get made happen in September. Charlo has a lot to say about me. I have a lot to say about him, but at the end of the day, we're both men. We're both probably one of the best, fighters in PBC and Showtime. So why not make it happen? I think it makes sense for both on my end and on Charlo's end. He doesn't really have anybody else to fight at 160. So I feel like that's a fight that should be fairly easy to make. So hopefully we could get it made in September.
I mean, hey, man, you got to call it for how you see it, man. I mean, the kid is not playing around. He's saying it right then and there. That's what he's aiming for. Now, if it happens, that's a different story. However, we still got to remember, Caleb Plant has said this right before his fight with Caleb Truax.
Just to close on, the infamous rivalry with David Benavidez that fans love. I know you mentioned during his Angulo fight, man, Vincent would have pieced this guy up. What did you think of how David looked in that fight, Caleb?
I mean, he went in there and he did what he had to do. So that's really all I can say, I guess.
He said, even beyond the money and titles, he just really wants that fight to happen in his career. So
Of course he does. He lost his world title, so he's in a desperate situation. He wasn't talking about that beforehand. When he won his world title against Ronald Graville, who was standing at the bottom of the steps asking him to fight? at the Hard Rock? Who was?
That was you, Caleb.
Me. But people don't, the rest of the world, they don't know about that because that's not on video for everybody. And it's not, I'm my promoter. So it's not my promoter. I have video, and you've seen the video of Samson saying, no, they don't need to fight yet. We're not going to let them fight yet. That fight needs to be built up so it can make more money. I don't feel like we could have done that when he had a world title and made a unification out of it. But they wanted to keep waiting. And then he loses his world title again for a second time. Of course he's saying that. He's desperate, but he's going to have to wait in line like a good little boy off to the side because I got my fight on January 30th, and then I got bigger fish to fry with Canelo after that, and then I'll get to him when I get to him. He's on my shit list, and I will get to him. But until then, he's going to have to wait off to the side like a good little boy because he didn't do what he was supposed to do again. He's going to have to wait.
Now, look, I must say, man, there's a couple things I got to say. First off, why does it always sound like Caleb is like, okay, you know how like the Charlo brothers always sound like, especially like Jamel, they always sound like they want to fight like in a bad mood, you know what I mean? Like, but he sounds like he's always in a whiny mood, just like a whiner. Like, like he's always complaining. Caleb's always complaining about something. And second of all, he said Vincent Feigenbutts would have pieced up David Benavidez. I mean, you could just tell this dude doesn't like David because he just throws all logic out the window when he's even talking. Come on, bro. Since you got the belt, you done fought Mike Lee, Vincent Feigenbutts, and Caleb Truax. All right, and you couldn't put Truax away, and so you had to say that you had some hand problems. I mean, we got to keep it 100% here. Yeah, David Benavidez has some problem with I think it was Robert Gravell, but he had a rematch and he settled that. So I mean, look, this is why this rivalry needs to be handled ASAP. I want to see that fight actually before I see a Charlo fight, before I see a Canelo fight. I would love to see these two get in the ring and mix it up, just like with the Teofimo and Haney situation. As much as I do understand when Teofimo says, "Yo, who has he fought?" I mean, Devin hasn't fought anybody in the top 10. Meanwhile, you got this guy putting in all the work. It's just like if you had a job and you take it, you doing all the overtime on the weekend, you doing all this. Some guy want to come out of nowhere and try to get the promotion after you done put in all the work. I know it's a little bit different when it comes to boxing, but I kind of understand what he's saying. Although I am kind of old school. When I say old school, I just mean like before all this Instagram and Facebook and all that other stuff. I grew up in the times of like Roy Jones, Tito Trinidad, Mike Tyson, Holyfield and stuff like that. I mean, I've always followed boxing, but times change. Just like the NFL, the way that they play, rules are constantly changing. The world is constantly changing. And so with that, these young kids have their own mindset. I'm trying to adapt to it. I may not always agree with all this capping and all this internet talk, but at the end of the day, they still do entertain for us, and I understand and I rock with it. Yo, we got some great fights tonight. We got David Benavidez. We got Chocolatito and Estrada. Oh man, it's gonna be a banger. I can't wait to make some highlights. And until then, man, hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button. This is Shadow Ghost, and I'm out.